Hey guys, Mike from Urban Automotive, Oakville, Ontario, Canada, here today with my man Paul from Monroe.
How you doing, guys?
Paul's here today to talk about a common subject, and that is shock and strut replacement. Quite often when we bring people's vehicles in that have well over 100,000 kilometers, we are recommending new shocks, and they don't understand why. Paul is here to help explain from the expert's point of view why we would recommend shocks based on our knowledge, but this will give you more of an insight, as he actually has a shock that we can see the insides of. That's exciting. Take it away, Paul.
Thanks, Mike. Shocks and struts necessarily aren't rebuilt anymore. They are a sealed unit. You cannot take them apart and replace a worn or damaged component, and unfortunately you do have to replace the whole assembly.
Now hold on one second. There was a time when shocks and struts were rebuilt?
They were. Back in the day, you could rebuild a shock or strut.
Is that true?
That's true.
Commonly, they are still rebuilt on snowmobiles and motorcycles.
Really?
Even mountain bikes use a similar kind of setup.
Wow, I've learned something today. Okay.
So inside of a shock or strut...
Ooh, here we go. This is the exciting part.
You can see that here.
Yes.
So there's a few components. There's fluid, there's gas charging, there's a pressure tube, a reserve tube, there's a base valve in the bottom. But what happens over time is the shock and strut, as you go down the road, moves up and down.
So this is not supposed to be intermingled. We're not supposed to have this aeration.
No, see, the fluid, what happens over time is, yes, you get the aeration.
Okay.
And that's not good for the fluid. It degrades the fluid over time, and that's what affects the steering, stopping, and stability. Because over time, this is not allowing the coil springs to be the oscillation controlled of the coil springs, which then affects the ride. And that's when you'll start to see the wear on the other aspects of the vehicle, such as tires, front-end components, brakes, which validate the reasons as to why Mike and his team may recommend new shocks and struts for your vehicle.
So there are some people out there that watch YouTube videos. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
I hope so. At any rate, they learn a lot of things from people. Mm-hmm. And the number one thing is, if your shock is leaking, it needs to be replaced.
Yeah, shocks don't necessarily have to be leaking to be degraded.
Because I meant to say, Paul, I don't see on this example here, I don't see any fluid loss at all.
You can see it's...
seems pretty dry.
You can see it's as dry as a bone. What happens over time, in 80,000 kilometers, this shock or a strut may cycle about 88 million times.
That's a lot.
That is a lot.
Now, I want to know is who figured that out? 88 million. That's a lot.
It is.
Somebody got paid to come up with that.
Yeah, we have some pretty high-tech testing equipment that cycles these shocks up and down and can simulate, wear in a vehicle. But it is something that is often overlooked. Unfortunately, they don't leak like they used to in the 70s and 80s. But over time, the fluids wear out, the piston seals wear out, the valve gets weak, and that's when you'll start to see the effect on the other components of the vehicle. So if you replace those other components and don't change your shocks and struts, you could potentially accelerate the wear on those new components that you just put on the vehicle.
Wow, that's very exciting, Paul. Thank you very much for taking the time to come out today, Paul. We appreciate you explaining it to our customers. And if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, by all means, please subscribe to our videos and leave any indications down below. We'd be happy to try to help you. Because here comes Ian in the middle of our video.